Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. My name's Tamika. This is Not Library of Tomes. Don't you wanna have fun? Fool around someone. I am here to share with you some horror books for beginners. I wanted to do a video where I kind of talked about the horror books that I've been reading, and I thought a good way of doing that would be just to give you some horror recommendations for babies almost, because I know that for a lot of people who don't dabble a ton in the horror genre, that is kind of the biggest concern, is like, are these books gonna scare the shit out of me, or am I gonna be okay? Personally, I have been reading a lot of horror, and I've been consuming horror for a really long time. I have been watching horror movies basically since I could walk. That was the thing that my family always wanted to watch when we would go anywhere to go watch a movie. Was my parents always wanted to watch scary movies, so it was kind of ingrained into me to love scary movies. And now my family wonders why I like scary stuff so much. It's because it was literally, I was raised with it. Like, I love horror movies, I love scary books, I love scary podcasts or scary short stories. I love them, and I just recently started to dive more into horror books. I did have a period of time where I read a lot of horror books, but I'm really diving in and like finding what I really like. I wanted to just give you a good list of horror books to read if you are a baby and you don't really like horror, or you're really new to horror. So let's hop on into it. So one of the first horror books that I ever read, well, not one of the first ones I ever read, but one of the first ones I remember reading was Horror Store by Grady Hendrix. I know that a lot of people have heard of Grady Hendrix, and I would recommend a lot of his books to people who are new to horror, but I specifically want to recommend this one because it is more of a dark comedy with horror elements in it. So in Horror Store, we are following a girl who works at it's not IKEA, but it is very similar. It's named something different, and it is told in a kind of like an IKEA manual, kind of like a catalog, like a furniture catalog. And it is definitely a darker comedy with horror elements because there's just like outrageous stuff happening in this book. They're coming into the store and people have put feces all over the couches, weird things are showing up, weird things are disappearing. So our characters decide to stay overnight in the place to see what's actually going on, and it's a little paranormal. I'm not going to share exactly what's happening in this one just because as a romance reader, I tend to overshare details, and I find that with horror, you don't want to overshare a ton of details. But with these specifically, this one, it is a little paranormal, it is a little hilarious, but it also is just like exactly what you want out of like a darker comedy with horror elements. It is, you get the scary stuff. Like, it's not like scary like you're gonna be scared. It's more like you see the horror elements and you can appreciate them for them being there rather than them scaring you. So I really do recommend this one for people who don't really like horror and that are kind of just trying to get into the genre. This is definitely gonna be funny. You're going to giggle and you're going to find the horror elements to be really enjoyable, I think. So next up, I want to talk about Comfort Me with Apples, which was a recommendation from my friend Ashley over at Ashley Reads. This one is one, again, I would say this one leans a little more mystery than horror, but it's still got the touch in there, and I do believe this is a good one for people who are not really familiar with the horror genre or just are kind to make the transition from thrillers to horror, and I feel like this one works really well. We are following a character who is stuck in this perfect world, and she can't really question anything, or, you know, it's against the rules essentially. And she has a husband, and the place that she lives in, it's giant, and she reiterates over and over again that this place was made for her. And the stipulation she has is she can never go into the basement, and essentially nothing is exactly how it seems, and things are not how she actually portrays them to be, and there is a deeper meaning behind almost everything happening in the story. I can't tell you what it is and what the twist is, but what I will say to you is that no men can ever be trusted, and I'm very happy I'm gay. I hate men. Next up, if you are a fan of slashers, or you are interested in something that is not as scary, which I will say slashers are not scary. The only thing scary about a slasher is, one, the fact that it is realistic and that people do go on these murderous rampages and essentially have a slasher happen in real life. But the other scary thing is jump scares. I don't personally get scared from jump scares in books because it's a slasher. I know what's happening. I've read so many slashers. I have watched so many. I just kind of know the formula, you know? So if you're a horror newbie or you can handle gore, slashers are a good one for people who don't like to be scared. This one specifically is Clown in the Cornfield, which is a clown slasher, and we are following a group of kids who have a YouTube channel. They play a lot of pranks on the people in the town, and our main character moves into town after an accident happens, and our characters are dealing with murderous clowns on the loose, on the run, and everyone's getting murdered, everyone's getting in trouble, everyone is being slashed all to pieces, and you are trying to figure out what is going on, who's behind the clowns, and what the reality of the situation is. It is a classic slasher. It's fantastic. I love it. I will be rereading this because it is just so good, and I just adore a good slasher. So like you can literally get me with a slasher by just being like, here, people get cut up. I'm in, cool, let's go. Like, again, I don't find slashers scary if you're looking for something that you can just get into and not have to worry about like a super high scare factor. This is it. This is the one you're gonna wanna go to because it is a very cheesy, young adult slasher that just really caters to the guts, the gore, not really jump scares. The next one I want to recommend is a manga, and I actually have a copy of it right here, and it is Parasite. This is a manga series that I hands down 100% believe is made for people who are on the fence about reading gore or reading horror manga. This is very light on gore, and it is also very easy to get into, and I would almost say that the gore and horror elements are very, very subtle. So essentially we have a parasite that comes down from space onto Earth, and they are attacking humans. They are getting in them in their sleep. They're like going through their ears and their nose and eating their brains, and then maturing and taking over the vessel of the human body. And then these parasites are living off of eating other humans. Again, this one is very low gore. I'm gonna just show you like a little bit, but like this is one of the scenes like where one of the heads come off. That's not really a spoiler, that's just some of the gore that we're kind of looking at. There is a little bit of animal gore. I will again show you some of that. It just looks like this. That's the kind of thing you're looking at when you are going into this series in particular. This one is one that I would 100% say low gore factor, very easy to get into, very beginner level horror. Like you get just enough of that taste in order to like really see if that's something you're gonna like or not. And I really, really like it. This one is following our hero who actually has the parasite in his hand. It does not make it to his brain, so he loses control over one of his hands, and him and the parasite kind of work together in order to like survive. Then we have Night of the Mannequins. This is by Stephen Graham Jones. I absolutely love Stephen Graham Jones, and I'm so happy that I have started reading his books. This one in particular is following a group of kids who are sneaking into a movie theater, and they end up getting in trouble because they don't buy like a ticket for the movie. And their solution to all this is to play a prank on the people over the movie theater and put a mannequin in the seat. I can't exactly tell you what happens. Our hero is a little unreliable and really doesn't grasp reality, and we are watching him unravel and have just the most ridiculous thought process. He believes he sees a mannequin get up and walk out of the building, and then he is convinced that the mannequin is picking off and killing his friends. And I really can't tell you anything other than that because I will spoil the entirety of it, but essentially we have a mannequin killing people. Take that for what you will. This one I would say is more of a psychological horror. You are definitely more in the head of our hero who is losing his mind, and you are kind of piecing things together from his perspective as he is learning what's going on. Very low gore factor. I thought this one was really well thought out and just really well put together, and I absolutely love the story. So if you're interested in Stephen Graham Jones, highly recommend. This is a great place to start. All right, so if you are still here, leave me a pumpkin emoji down in the comments. Why a pumpkin? Because spooky. It's not spooky season, but God, I wish it was. Every day is spooky season in my house though, if we want to be completely honest. All right, I will see y'all in my next one. Bye everyone.
Don't you wanna have fun? Don't you wanna have some fun? Yeah, his baby said that they don't got a future like